Welcome back to another episode of Parents Read the Darndest Things. I'm Kayla. I work in adult services here at the Columbus Public Library.
And I'm Lane, and I work in children's at the Columbus Public Library.
Go us. Go team.
Go team.
Alright, so if you haven't participated in the club before or listened or watched a video, the club is just basically about parents and adult caregivers getting together, no stress, reading whatever we want. Literally, we go across all kinds of genres, all kinds of topics, and we just talk about it in different chat groups online and vibe about it. It's very low stress. That's the whole point, is to forget your responsibilities and just vibe about some good books.
Yeah, meet some new friends. I know, as a parent or a caregiver, it can be hard to get out there and have a life outside of parenting and caregiving. So we do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we exist for, and we do a good job of it. So
Yes, so this month we did a Choose Your Own Classics read. I'm really, really excited about it because there was like so many directions you could go with this and so many different types of books you could read. So right here we have displayed on the table graphic novel retellings of classics, which is part of why I really liked this topic. So we have the graphic novel retellings of Slaughterhouse Five, The Handmaid's Tale, Animal Farm, and actually just a classic graphic novel, V for Vendetta. This is the 30th anniversary edition, and I thought it was really cool, so I put it out. But that's part of why I'm really excited we pick classics, just because so many cool things happen with them. They get made into graphic novels, they get broken up into series, they get made into TV shows and movies, but the essence of the author's main concept is always there, no matter how much it transcends time. So I'm really excited.
I like it for the purpose of something like what we do for our program, which is an adult program and a children's program together, so that intergenerational thing that happens with classic stories.
Yes.
It's cool. You have parents come in and go like, I read that book when I was young, and that's I really enjoy that about classics, and I like modern retellings of classics.
Yes.
So this was a super fun one for me too.
And Lane and I read really different things.
Super different things. Once again, very different people.
I don't know if our discussion will overlap or if it's going to be me telling Lane about my book and Lane telling me about her book. But it's fun either way.
Either way, I'm here for it.
But that's the exciting thing about classics is they suit everybody, you know?
Yeah, I think classics are a cool way to identify yourself as a reader too.
Yes.
But they all kind of maintain, I don't know what it is. Perhaps we will delve into that, the essence of a classic. What makes a classic a classic?
Yes.
Which was an interesting question when we started talking about books we read, because they are very different, but they're still classics.
You know?
When
I was kind of planning out what I wanted to talk about, I got really, really close to looking up what is a classic, as you know my little heart wanted to do, but I didn't because I was like, why don't we just talk about it and see where it goes?
That's a good idea, because I think that your understanding of a classic is a definition. It's going to be different from your understanding as a classic of your interpretation.
Yes.
So, yeah, my little librarian heart wants a definition, look it up. But,
yeah,
I also want to be free to determine it for myself, blaze my own trail.
Someone can determine it for me and give me a nice written out definition, and I'll find it and go by that, and it'll be excellent.
Okay, so the exact opposite of what happened in cults,
yes.
Where I want to be in a cult. Okay, so you're an academic cult.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Dark
yes.
academia.
Reference cult. That's me. Give me.
If someone can make a T-shirt that says reference cult with a little cart.
I have a cardigan that I embroidered that says reference cult.
No, you don't.
Yes, I.
Can I get one? I'm not, but I just like the aesthetic.
It says reference cult, and it has a Dewey Decimal number embroidered on it, and it's got these little magic hands.
That's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. Get out, really?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my god. Okay, well, that's the end. We're done. We're done here.
That's the end of the book club. Now we just make clothes.
Now we just learn to craft. Up next, learning to crochet and embroider and paint.
Isn't that what we do anyway?
All right. Did you want to talk about the book you read?
I'd love to talk about the book I read because I was surprised by how much I liked it. Because at first I was like, okay, we're going to read classics, like that'll be cool. And I almost reread something that I knew I was going to like. And I was like, that'll be an opportunity to like do something easy.
Yeah.
And like take something on my plate and do an easy read. And then I was actually shelving, and I shelved the graphic novel retelling of Slaughterhouse Five. And I was like, I have never read any of this author's novels.
Which is crazy to me because Kurt Vonnegut is one of my favorite authors, and like in a real snotty way.
Yeah.
Like I'm owning it.
I'm surprised that you liked it.
He's very not bubbly, which is
Yeah, it's very not you.
it's very not me. But my mom is, sorry mom, a little crazy, and she made me read it when I was like 9 or 10.
She made you read Slaughterhouse Five?
Yeah, because she was like, "You love Kurt Vonnegut. She's dark." Sorry, mom.
I feel like me and your mom would vibe a lot, but I don't think I'd make a
Both
9-year-old read
Sagittarius
Slaughterhouse
is-
Five.
Yes. So I read it when I was quite young.
Yeah.
And then I just kept reading Kurt Vonnegut because
Yeah.
I think what makes him a classic is he's very distinct. Like if you read any of
Yes.
his books, his style is very distinct.
I loved the way he wrote. Like, when I flipped through the graphic novel, and I'm not really huge into graphic novels, but I was like, this story looks very interesting. And I'm ashamed to say I did not know about Dresden. I don't recall being taught that in school, like, at all.
No.
Truly, like, shame on the education system.
Honestly,
because it was,
shame.
Like, a horror. If you don't know about it, you should look it up. But it just, I mean, it's really the whole plot of this book, so maybe you should just read this book. But I'm surprised that you liked it because it's so dark. But you do, I mean,
I'm a little spooky.
you pull in the dark ones.
I'm trying to attract the weirdos.
Yeah, his writing is very distinct. You're right. Like, that's immediately why I liked it. I was like, oh, we're gonna read classics. I haven't read something that's kind of complex and takes concentration in a really long time. But it wasn't difficult for me to like get on board with it and understand it.
Yeah, I think he's
The
very
narrative was
like
straightforward.
tongue-in-cheek.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes these ridiculously heavy topics, and it's like sardonic in a way. Like it's very nihilistic without
Yeah.
being fatalistic. Like it's just, it's just very unique, and all his books are like that.
Yeah.
And I like his short little one-liners that he uses. They're very quotable.
Yes. So it goes.
And they stick out. So I would argue that that's what makes it a classic, is that because you can't replicate it.
You're right. Yeah.
Like,
You could replicate, I think, the way he built his plot.
Yeah.
Maybe, or like plot devices that he used. But his style of writing,
You can't.
No, you couldn't replicate that.
you can't, and it's like, I don't even know, I would have to look it up. But his tone reminds me of Jasper Johns the painter. You know, like, and it's very neo-Dada, it's almost nonsensical. There's a little bit of like dark humor to it. They're very
Yes.
much in the same vibe, which makes
Yeah.
Jasper Johns a classic. I mean, he's a world-renowned artist. In the way that Kurt Vonnegut
Yes.
is viewed in the same as an author, and it's just because of that very unique style.
Yes. It was so dark, but not in a way where you were supposed to feel uncomfortable with it or like sad about it. It was dark, but in the way where he was just like, it is what it is. And so like with that very quotable line, so it goes, he was just like, these people died, so it goes.
There's
This massacre happened, so it goes.
in Mr. Rosewater, I think, there's a line that he writes, and it's like, "Be patient, Ophelia, love Hamlet." And it's like that offhand, meh, like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Style that he writes with that, I mean, it's recognizable. You could rip off the title page and be like, read this book and be like, is that Kurt Vonnegut?
Yep.
And I don't know. that's what makes it a classic, right? I would love to know other people's opinions on if the author's style makes it a classic or helps make it a classic. Like, if
Yeah.
it's such a unique, distinct way of writing, is that what elevates something from a book to a classic?
Yeah.
You could have someone really modern.
Yes. And then,
Arguably J.K. Rowling.
yeah. And if you look up lists of classics, Harry Potter's always on there. Even though
Yeah.
Harry Potter's, only from the 90s. And traditionally, when you think of classics, you think of things
Older.
much older. Yeah.
Yeah.
From like the 18th century to like the early 20th century.
And it's, of course, something that people keep coming back to and remaking and reimagining and revisioning, but somehow the essence of what it is stays the same.
Is still there.
I would argue if that's like because the author is so distinct that it just keeps the flavor.
Yes. I love it too because you can take the root of it and retell it all these different ways. Like you were saying, like modern retellings. And I know you watched the modern Little Women like retelling. Yeah. And
I
you
loved it.
And they've remade it and retold it so many different ways. But you've got all your main characters and their main storylines. They always remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if part of what makes a classic too is that it remains relatable over time.
Yeah.
Or it can be, if it's modern, it could be relatable back through time.
I think that's a good point. Like, I obviously read Little Women as my classic, but I read it a couple different ways. Like, I reread the original, and then there's been some new releases of graphic novels for kids that have been released, and there's 2 that I know of. And one I think is done really well, and one kept the names but really didn't keep the story. And I think that there's parts of that story that really you can't get rid of. Like, spoiler. Do I need to tag a spoiler in a classic? Anyway, Beth dies.
Yeah.
That has to happen. Or you lose the story.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that every retelling is a good retelling of a classic if you're not keeping the elements that made it a classic.
I agree.
Which kind of circles back around to, well, what makes it a classic? To which, I don't know.
Yep.
But you can tell when it's not there.
Yeah.
So that's odd to me. The movie, I think, did a great job of keeping the elements that made it so approachable to begin with, in both a movie format and a book. It kept the warmness, the coziness, the family aspect.
Yeah.
Others haven't. So I just don't know what can be defined as lacking.
Yeah.
But there is a noticeable lack of. So
Yeah.
that was interesting to me. Just what it is.
Yeah.
What it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
When you take parts out, you take away some of the relatability, and then when it's not universally relatable anymore, it just becomes another book. Yeah. But that is interesting because whereas Little Women had characters who were like so relatable to all different types of women and young women, Slaughterhouse Five didn't even have you. I mean, you could say like Billy or Kurt Vonnegut, the author. We see both their points of view in it. Neither is really a protagonist.
No.
We don't have a hero. We just have a basic narrative. There's really not even like a climax. It's just Billy. He goes to war. He has flashbacks in time with the Tralfamadorians. I can't really say it, but the aliens, which I loved. I loved that it was like a war story, like a true war story, but with sci-fi. And when I picked it up, I was like, how can you do that and it not be trash?
And it was perfect.
But it was fantastic,
So
and
good.
it was like every time he was experiencing like high stress, high trauma, he would go back in time. But whereas the Tralfamadorians, I don't even know where I was going with this, but now I'm like really on a tangent.
Keep going. I support this. Let's go. Let's dive deep.
Whereas the Tralfamadorians, they see like all of time, right?
Yeah.
And they can just choose the nice moments to go to. Billy can't do that, so even though he picked like that up from the Tralfamadorians and he would travel through time, he would relive the horrible things that happened at Dresden like all the time. And he couldn't choose when it happened. The Tralfamadorians could just be like, I can see like that moment is going to be trash. I'm going to sidestep it and go to this moment, which is nice. And Billy couldn't do that. He could just be like, I'm here, like, my wife just died.
I'm
Zip.
in it.
Now I'm in Dresden and I'm in the hospital. Like,
But isn't that
It was
really
tragic.
what, like, PTSD is?
yes.
It's
and-
normal. I say normal, that's a bad word. Typical brains, where you have a format of being able to compartmentalize and sidestep things. Like,
Mhm.
oh, this is not a path I want to go down.
Mhm.
I'm going to think around it.
Yes.
That's something in your cognitive ability
Yes.
that people with traumas may or may not have.
I loved that, like, especially at, like, the time period where, like, you weren't gonna, like, recognize PTSD.
Exactly.
We're not gonna talk about it. We're gonna have an entire book that is just, like, completely focused on an individual with PTSD
Without ever saying it.
without ever saying it, recognizing how horrible it is, how terribly it has affected them, and the relationships around them. And even, like, people at a distance, like when he goes on the news and stuff and starts trying to talk about Traumadorians and space and time travel, and people are like, who is this crazy weirdo?
Yeah.
It's just like if somebody with PTSD started going off on a tangent, you know, out in a public space, people would be like, what is happening? Who are they? Because they don't have that relatability. But to somebody who has been in war, they would absolutely understand what is happening.
I mean, there's like people who, if you're dealing with PTSD,
Mhm.
right? You're a vet and you've come back.
Yeah.
Civilized worlds, you, me, would feel alien.
Yes.
It would feel so out of touch with your reality. It would feel very separate. It's pretty cool that he could do it without ever labeling it.
Yes, without ever labeling
Or
it, without-
explaining it.
He never explained it. He never addressed it. He never said
It just is.
Billy came back from war at this time and then started doing these things. It was just, we're jumping through time, but we still totally understand what's happening.
Which, I mean,
I loved it.
credit to Kurt Vonnegut for being a phenomenal writer, because I don't think that that's something people can just do.
Yeah.
I don't know how many stories have been written about a group of sisters.
Yeah.
I don't know, thousands, millions, like a lot. I don't know another one that has carried over in the same way through any generation to people who don't even have sisters.
Yeah.
That bond, you can feel, you can grow up with it, you can leave it, you yearn for it, you miss it.
Mhm.
I mean, these human emotions are done so well in these books that
Yeah.
anyone can get them.
Mhm.
So I don't know what it is that makes that happen in these titles that doesn't happen in so many others.
Ooh.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's just simply the author's genius. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. You might just have to chalk it up to that. But there's definitely that element that carries across all these classics. It's that one. It's that relatability. It's that connection to the human collective
Yeah.
that some books just don't have.
Yes.
So, someone explain it to me.
I'm like deep in it now.
I'm like thinking about it.
I'm like
oh my
stewing.
God, it's like, I guess it's like, you could argue this with paintings and music and
Yeah.
books. What
Yeah.
makes something that great?
Yeah, and any of the creative things, you always have people who will look at any aspect of a creative art and be like, well, anybody could do that. Anybody
Yeah.
can make a painting or write a story.
But you
But
can't.
That's not anybody
It's
can
not
do
true.
it, and not anybody can do it well, or so memorably, or so relatably.
And there's like really good books.
Yeah.
There's great books that I've read that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a good book. I loved it. I have a book hangover. I'm going to talk to all my friends about it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Sarah J. Maas, Cassandra Clare.
Yeah.
But they're not
If you would consider them
classics.
classics.
I wouldn't consider them great.
Yeah. I would say they're awesome stories,
Great stories.
but yeah, I wouldn't say that they carry all the elements
Yeah.
of a classic.
To the point where, like, I'm so respectful of someone going, oh, I don't like that book because, meh, I didn't love it.
Yeah.
But when you say that about a classic, I gotta be, oh yeah, like, why?
Yeah.
Like,
Definitely.
arguably, why?
Yeah.
Sometimes people have good reasons. I don't like Hemingway. Kid Rocks. Don't like it. I think it's wordy and, like, verbose and just, ugh,
Yeah.
it's a lot. But I feel like sometimes classics get a bad rep, and people just go, "Well, I don't like them," because they don't want to sound pretentious.
Yeah.
But like low key, a little pretentiously, they're classics for a reason.
Yeah. I think also sometimes people don't like them because they assume that like all classics carry, I don't want to say like weight, like linguistically, like how I went into it expecting it to be like complex and it was going to take me forever to like
Faulkner or something, you're like, oh
like
God.
Shakespearean
Yes.
sentence structure, and I was going to be like, oh, this is going to take me forever to like figure out what he's saying, and it absolutely did not. Like, I was just like, oh, this is like very conversational, very straightforward. And there's so many classics like that where you don't
So
have to
many.
like dig so deep
Anne
to
Green
understand
Gables
it.
is a story about a girl in a small grew up in a small town. Something just rain, the rain would fall down. I mean, literally, that's Anne Green Gables. She's just like living her best life.
Yeah.
She gets married to her high school bae. Why is that such a
That's
great
okay.
story?
And it's not that hard. Yeah. Like,
It's really, I mean,
it's so simple to understand.
but why is it so great? Like, people still read it. And
Still
there's so
remake
many
it.
shows
Yeah.
about it.
Didn't they just remake it on Netflix?
Yes, twice.
Yeah.
So, how many stories is there like that? Why is that one particularly great? Do you think, I would want to know your opinions. Do you think it's just popularity? Do you think there is like a merit to the book? Or is it just, well, enough people know about it? You know?
Like, did it get spread around enough?
Right.
Or is it a combination of things?
I want to know. Because I'm like, I don't know. I'm not bright enough to figure it out. I just know. I just know what I know.
We just have our opinions.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I want to know, like, if maybe some of our, like, English majors
Ooh, yeah.
have talked about this before, or have some studies to show, like...
Yes, and especially with classics. I know y'all been reading them classics, talking about the classics.
I know that our Discord server is about to just pop off, right? Like, oh, we're going to have to filter through so many mentions.
Yeah.
I'll do it, though, I guess.
Y'all start some arguments.
Oh, yeah, I want to catch some, like, smoke in the Discord chat.
Fight with me.
Don't fight. I'll cry. I'm sensitive. Please don't fight with me.
Don't fight with Lane, but fight with me.
Yeah.
I'll stand in front of her virtually.
Please don't fight with me. I have a baby. I am baby. Let's talk about Amy for a minute.
We can. Tell me all about it, because I didn't read Little Women, and I never have.
Oh my god.
Which is why I
it's
wrote down
so-
all those questions about it.
It's so cute. Like,
I know that obviously Beth dies. I know that Jo was like the heroine, but also she kind of changed her life plans.
yeah, I
I
think
think it's set with the Civil War in the
super
background.
cool.
But, like,
Civil
we
War's
never
in the
talk about it.
background.
I think
it's
it's interesting that they never talk about it.
They don't. It is very removed, other than it affects their family in a removed way, like their father
their
does.
dad's-
You
yeah.
know,
Mhm.
but you know, you have one sister who's very much traditional. She gets married, she has kids. That is what she wants. She wants to wear pretty dresses. She wants to be in high society. That's it.
Do you?
And you have a lot of like foils to each other.
Okay.
You know, you have two very gentle, low key sisters, and you have the two, the middleest, middleest,
The middleest.
and the youngest, Amy and Jo,
Yeah.
and they're foils to each other.
I love a narrative foil.
I do too. And I feel like anyone with a sister can relate. Like, my sister is definitely Jo, and I'm definitely Amy. I am concerned about the shape of my nose, and
Me
I do
my
want to
sister are on
sketch.
the opposites of home.
What? Are you on the opposite of the
We're
wall?
literally the same person.
So you just
My sister's
copied
a
and pasted? That's it?
My sister's a librarian.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
We like all the same stuff. We like all the same music and all the same TV shows.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like my sister is very much like big sister vibes.
My sister definitely like big sister vibes. Like takes care of me big time. Like with my sister, like I am baby, but
I'm baby with everybody, just to clear that up.
yeah,
All the time, baby.
I'm bro girl like all the time. But with my sister, it's like, can you make me a grilled cheese? And then she was like, yes. But besides that, no. Like I'm literally just a replica.
My sister is like really manipulative. And I mean that in like the best possible way. I love you.
That can be great.
She's amazing. That's
Okay.
why she has this way that she just like conducts the people around her.
Okay.
And I'm dumb. So I do stuff all the time. She's like, can you get this for me? And I'm just like, yeah, of course I will, okay. And I just do stuff for her, and she'll like convince people to just carry her plate away and do her dishes and vacuum her house. And people just do what she wants.
She just sounds like a leading lady.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she doesn't ever like, it's not authoritative. She's just like makes these like casual suggestions, and you just find yourself doing it. And I'm like, what's that talent? It's so persuasive. I'm all for it all the time, so.
So she's your foil, is what you're
Yes.
what you're getting at. Okay.
You know?
Interesting.
So she's not, yeah, she's totally my foil. Whoa, she's my foil in my story. She is. She's still really cool, but she's definitely Jo. She's like a writer, and she's, you know, a little bit more grounded, and I'm vain.
And who did this make you?
I'm Amy.
Okay.
For sure. I'm the baby of the family.
Okay.
Like, I want to get to France and like dabble in art. Like, I'm that girl.
Got you.
It's. I just feel like if you read The Little Women,
Mhm.
anyone who has a sister, you will find yourself in one of the sisters, and you will
Okay.
find your sister in one of the sisters. You'll be like, that's my
Part
sister.
of the universal relatability.
It's a universal relatability. I don't know how they did that without making it seem like stereotypical,
Yeah.
but you did. And definitely, I think in the latest remakes, the focus has been on Jo and Amy
Mhm.
as people, and they're diversifying who they are and how they come across.
Mhm.
In a lot of the graphic novels, they're kind of embracing Jo's queerness. Like if you read the original, she definitely comes off as maybe she's not ever going to get married to a man.
Yeah.
And in the graphic novels, they're kind of like embracing that because it doesn't really affect her story much.
Yeah. Because she had other plans, right? Because she wanted to, it was
Yes.
very career oriented.
Yes.
Yeah, love was not the interest.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that happens in some graphic novels retelling, which I don't mind. It doesn't take away anything.
Yeah.
And some that doesn't die, which does take away from the story. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I saw some discussions where people were like, because she was so, like, kind and everything, like, what's her death? Did that make her, like, a martyr? Like, or, like, she,
Yeah.
you know, did she have to die? There were discussions, what happens if she doesn't die? Like, how does that change the story? But you seem very set, like, she
I
has to
feel
die,
like-
the story is not as good.
I feel like she did, because it's both what brings the sisters together, back together at the end of the book,
Yeah.
and it also gives the family tragedy to deal with. Otherwise, it's too perfect. Otherwise,
Gotcha.
there's too much quaintness, and there's no struggle. So, yeah, I would argue
Yeah.
that it has to happen in order
So-
for the story to happen.
For the plot, like, you needed a climax.
Needed it to be.
And you could argue she was the character who had, like, nothing going on, like,
Exactly.
happening for her. So she had to go.
She had to go.
Okay.
She had to go.
It's interesting in both stories. People had to die for the story to progress.
Yeah.
Obviously in very different ways. And there's war in both stories in very different ways.
In very different ways.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I would just have to argue that what makes classics is that, like, universal, human, collective feeling that you get. You know, if you're focused on the family, you talk about the warm coziness of being at home and the relationship you have with families, or I mean, you don't have that relationship with anybody else.
Yeah.
It's
The
very
dynamics
unique.
are unique. Yeah.
If you have a war story talking about PSTD from a point of view where you're living with it and not just diagnosing it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those appeal to people because it's living.
Yes.
It's life.
Yeah.
And it's not ever clean, because life's not ever clean. So, I don't know. I guess I just keep coming back to that. What makes it a classic, though? I feel like those elements are in a lot of books,
Yeah.
but I guess they were just done so well in these classics that it elevates it.
I guess there are the elements of, like, man versus self, man versus society, that kind of stuff, but those are in all kinds of novels.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of how did the author handle it in these classics.
Yeah.
You know? And for Slaughterhouse Five, it was obviously like, I think it's both. It's man versus self and man versus society. You know, man versus society with the firebombing of Dresden, and man versus self with the PTSD, and how they can't be separated. which is a very interesting way to look at it.
Ooh, I do like that. You're right. I mean, that's definitely on the women. You have these girls fighting who they are,
Yeah.
and also fighting expectations of who they need to be, who they
Yeah.
should be. And that's a really interesting point, because I mean, aren't we all?
Yeah. And the story of Little Women and the expectations that they're fighting, a story that transcends time.
Uh-huh.
Even a little girl today who picked up that book would be
Really?
like, this is set at the timing of the Civil War, but I'm still fighting, societal
I mean,
gender
that's right.
expectations.
Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter,
Mhm.
those good versus evil stories sometimes get elevated to this fundamental battle that we have with everything.
Yes.
And some don't. I've read plenty that are good versus evil that just don't have the oomph.
Yeah.
And I don't know what gives it the oomph.
Yeah.
But
you see it coming a
there's
mile
something.
away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when Harry Potter was released, everyone knew it was going to be a classic.
Yes.
There was no that it wasn't. It was not going to be a classic. It was. Yeah. I wonder what the next one's going to be. I talk about this all the time because I'm like really excited to know what the next classic is going to be. Like I just want to know what's it going to be about. I mean, I wouldn't have it. And I wouldn't have predicted like a boy with glasses goes to wizarding school. It's going to be like
was going to be a
the
classic.
one. But it was, and
Yeah.
so now I want to know what's next.
Yeah. How much does, also I want to know, and I want to ask the readers, how much does authorship or the author play into
Yeah.
us labeling it a classic? Especially like today in production and marketing and this, that, and the other. If we're getting, not to get too much into the Harry Potter thing, everything that's going on with J.K. Rowling right now, but yeah, you can't argue that it's not going to be a classic.
Yeah,
It
it's gonna be
is.
a classic.
It
I mean,
is.
she can, at this point, her art is so removed from her
Yes, I agree.
that what she does really doesn't have an effect on
The consumption of it.
the current. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I'm just really interested to know what's next, and I think this might change in our social media age.
Yes.
We have a bestseller circulating all the time.
Mhm.
It doesn't make it a classic. Popularity didn't make Sarah J. Maas a classic.
Yeah.
She's good. She's super well known,
Yeah.
but it's not a classic. So popularity doesn't seem to be the key.
It's not. Yeah.
So I'm just really excited to know what the next classic is going to be, and then I'm going to study it, and I'm going to make an Excel spreadsheet with all these points, and I'm going to graphic, and I'm going to figure out the formula for a classic story.
And then you're gonna write one.
No, that's a lot of work. I've already put in the work discovering the secret to a classic. My part's done.
Bottle that formula.
I'm going to patent, I'm going to sell it.
Patent it. Yeah.
Patent and sell it, and then I'll
That's
be free to
brilliant.
live my life.
We stand.
So, if you want to help me in this endeavor, that would be cool. You can. Do you want to help me?
I will absolutely help you.
All right, friends, we need some Excel spreadsheet points. So if you got any,
Yes. Give us those points. Let us know what you think makes a classic. Let us know what you think the current modern classics are.
ooh, yeah, facts.
Let us know.
Big mood.
Also in the Discord, obviously, what classics you are reading.
Ooh, and feel free to fight in the Discord too.
Feel free
but
to fight.
Monitor your language because our robot will auto ban you.
Our
so.
robot will auto ban you.
It's a
And
feisty robot.
We stand the robot overlords.
We do love our robots. We added some really fun robots to our Discord.
We
So,
did.
not to brag or anything, but you can level up. You can play some games. You can use it as a dice rolling thing. I don't know if you play D&D, but you can use our robot.
Yes.
So it's all sorts of fun, and we're allowing you to fight in it. So honestly,
Yes. So why not?
why not? Get on Facebook, join
Yeah.
Discord, fight there.
That's where all the real fun is anyway.
It's true. Yeah, that's a fact. Well, this was our very circular conversation about classics.
It was great. I loved my classic. I'm glad you
Mine.
liked yours. I'm excited to hear and see what everybody else decides to read. If it's a remake, if it's a graphic novel, if you watched a TV show and thought it was trash and liked the book better, or the other way around,
Ooh, yeah.
you know?
I want to know some of that good stuff.
Let
If
us
you like
know.
the TV show better than the book, drop that link. I want to watch it.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
This is cool. This was one of my favorite discussions. I liked it because we just kept going back to the same point. Like, I don't know. I don't really know what. I don't know. But I like it. That's a big mood.
All right. Sometimes you just don't know.
Sometimes you just don't.
And it's okay to not know. That's 2020.
That's the message for this discussion. Sometimes you just don't know.
And we'll end it there. Okay. Thanks for watching Parents Read the Darndest Things, guys. Once again, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Lane.
Bye, guys.